Wizards of the Coast just spoiled the most ridiculous land they have ever printed. And I mean that in a good way. Greetings, owners of... No owners allowed! Wait, what? Greetings, people who have rectangles. There we go. All right, moving forwards, we are here today to talk about a brand new card that just got spoiled from Core 2021. It is the most ridiculous land ever concepted, and I'm absolutely in love with it. It actually ties into a card for me that goes all the way back to Arabian Nights. So let's get the card up on the screen so we can all appreciate it, even though you've technically already seen it once in this video. So we're looking at Animal Sanctuary. This is a land that taps for a colorless mana, and 2 and tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on target bird, cat, dog, goat, ox, or snake. That's an interesting assortment of creature types. And the flavor text says, no owners allowed, and that's the sanctuary sign. I thought that, honestly, when I saw the flavor text, I'm like, all right, that's funny. I got to mess around a little with that. So, this is a very peculiar land. When it comes to non-basic lands that interact with specific creature types, there aren't really that many that have abilities that are like affecting different creature types. A lot of the time you'll see lands that say, like, for example, the tournament grounds that says, oh, you can use this mana to cast knights or equipment. It's almost always about being able to use mana to cast different things, as opposed to, or, you know, like some kind of bonus maybe where this spell's uncounterable. But there's not that many that just straight up have a tap targeting a creature of a particular type ability. That is very, very unique in Magic the Gathering. An Animal Sanctuary is the weirdest of the lot, the most ridiculous of the lot. So the concept is this is an animal sanctuary. Now the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. First of all, just like the calm, peaceful, idyllic setup of it, it just kind of puts you at ease to begin with. And you may not have noticed, but in the background, on those crazy hilly kind of spires that are raising up into the sky, there are actually gigantic dwellings that people reside in as well. But obviously they're further back. You don't see any signs of people at all in the artwork, and the only indication that they might be nearby is the fact that there are those houses in the backwards reach there. But in the forefront, we have a pair of cats. You've got like goats climbing up on the little cliff off to the side. You've got multiple oxen. You've got birds soaring through the sky. A couple of little happy dogs down there. Everybody has a friend to hang out with except the snake. And we all know why. Because it's a snake and that's what you get. Not even snakes want to be around other snakes. That's how this works. So the idea of an animal sanctuary is kind of hilarious, right? Like, when we look at Magic the Gathering, this card actually would make more sense before they made a particular change, because how it works now in Magic the Gathering is you aren't summoning up a real creature. So when you cast a spell that creates a bear or a goat or a frog, you're actually just creating a copy of that. It is a construct that is similar in every way, but not the actual being. When Magic started out, the real flavor behind the game, and the flavor that I still stick with because it just feels way more impressive, is the fact that you would actually go and acquire the real living beings. You would bond with them, like put a link on them that you could use to draw them to you through the blind eternities. So in that case, having an animal sanctuary would make perfect sense. You'd be like, you know what? You know what, Mr. Ox? We've been on a lot of interplanar adventures where I've summoned you to many different places, Ox. Remember Bruce? I'm gonna call him Bruce. Remember Bruce when we went to Ravnica? Remember all the roads, and remember how much Tarkir sucked with the dragons? And just like, I picture that kind of a scenario where you have Bruce the Ox, and Bruce has served you faithfully for like decades or whatever. You prolonged his life with magic because that's the kind of wizard you are. You're not gonna let Bruce fade away on you. And so, you know what, Bruce, you get a vacation. We're going to take you to Canada's Wonderland, or I guess, you know what, I've got more of an American audience. We're going to take you to the Ox version of Disneyland. We're going to take you to Oxenland? Ollie Oxenfree Land. Anyways, you get the idea. If this was a sanctuary where you would actually take like creatures that really existed there, that makes more sense than just these constructs that you create for the purpose of a battle and then unmake. And that also feels, now that I think about it, the flavor behind that feels kind of weird. As a planeswalker, like let's say you're summoning up some human soldiers. You're creating complete copies of these human soldiers you've seen before. And so they have like the memories of their existence. Like if you make Gus the Spear Guy, does he remember everything that Gus the Spear Guy knows? And does he feel anything when you unmake him at the end of the battle when you're done with him? Is that any less callous in a way? You know what I mean? Like if we really dive down into the flavor of it, it gets kind of morally messed up no matter how you look at it. So just go with the route of, I am an all-powerful wizard and I will bend everything to my will. That is my philosophy. But like, regardless of which of those two scenarios, let's say I made a construct of a cat, but I kept it and I'm going to take it to the sanctuary where it can hang out with other cats. The idea of planeswalkers that are like caught in big interplanar battles, just being like, I'm going to go put my goat in a petting zoo for a while. It just feels so out of place. The artwork is gorgeous, but it feels like, it doesn't feel like a Magic card. It feels like a poster your mom would have on the wall or something. Like, I like the oxen. They look so happy and content. They don't have to work at that place with Becky. I hate my job so much. Like, that's just the vibe that it gives me. You know what I mean? When I look at the card. But I really like this. I think it's a ridiculous concept where it's like spa day for your animals and very particular ones. But they get like, you can send a 1/1 cat in there and he hangs out for a while and comes out as a 2/2 cat. What were you eating in the sanctuary? It's like they're secretly coming out and being like, at night when the animals sleep, we inject them with steroids. Like, what? How does that work? I love it though. I really do love it. It makes me think of, from Arabian Nights, Elephant Graveyard. Which, to get back to the point, because I know I've wandered all over the place, the idea behind this is I wanted to talk about some lands that have some crazy abilities specifically tied to particular creature types. So obviously we've covered this one with the bird, cat, dog, goat, ox, or snake, but when we started, if you wanted to do something silly like that, the only thing you had in terms of lands like that would be Elephant Graveyard. And you can tap that for a colorless mana, or you can tap it to regenerate an elephant or mammoth. Now, regenerate is an ability that Wizards has kind of put off to the side. They don't really use that anymore. It's been replaced in most cases by indestructible, which in a lot of ways functions the same way, but regeneration was different. I don't feel like regeneration is too powerful or too complicated, but at the end of the day, it's not like it makes a huge difference to me when you add in indestructible. I mean, it's somewhat of a flavor difference. When it comes to creatures like trolls and whatever, I like that idea of them regenerating, but that's not that big a deal. I thought this land was so cool when I first saw it. I was like, oh, neat! A land that like specifically cares about mammoths and elephants, which if I'm not mistaken, have just been basically combined into one creature type. So at this point, I think the Oracle wording on this card is probably just regenerate, like tap, regenerate, target elephant. I could be wrong on that, and I don't know, man. I'm just here talking about my old memories, okay? So deal with it. We'll have to live with maybe being the answer. I don't know. Now, the artwork for Elephant Graveyard is admittedly kind of underwhelming to a degree. It's probably just because it's so like almost one color. It feels like you've got like kind of a sun bleached area, I guess maybe deserty as well, and there's the bones of a bunch of elephants kind of piled up there. And also the flavor is very confusing in terms of like, okay, this you can either draw magical power from the bones of elephants, or somehow this place saves an elephant's life. Like, is there a spirit of another elephant that resides there that gets back in his body. He's like, you can do it. We'll do it together. Like, how does that work? The flavor of it never made sense to me. But either way, I always thought this was a really cool card. But Arabian Nights cards, especially things like this, really hard to come by. So I could never get my hands on more than one. I still built a green-white elephant, like, mammoth deck using it, but I never got to live the dream of having multiples. And for the longest time in Magic's history, Elephant Graveyard was the only land that existed that really did anything remotely like what we're talking about here today. So the next card that came along was Swarmyard, and that was from Time Spiral. So this again taps for 1 mana, adds a colorless to your mana pool. You tap it as well to regenerate target insect, rat, spider, or squirrel. And the flavor text says, where scavengers nest in hollowed out rib cages and chittering crawlers peer from empty eye sockets, few dare to trespass. I get that. Honestly, this card disgusts me. The artwork is really gross. They did a fantastic job with this in terms of making just this detestable location where insects and rats and spiders are all going to do quite well. And then poor squirrels got lumped in there. You know what I mean? Like, normally when you think of squirrels, you're just like, look at that happy little bouncy guy in the park. Here you go. Here you go, squirrel. You like peanuts? I know you like nuts in your mouth, squirrel. So that sort of scenario is one where lumping the squirrels and makes them feel all gross and like Swarmyard just got this really grody feel to it where so that's good in terms of flavor because that's what they're going for. And it regenerating like an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel makes more sense when you think of it, them just kind of like feasting on the remnants of like bodies and things like that. Like there's actually something that they are able to ingest to kind of explain the regeneration to a degree. That at least has the flavor that ties together a little more tightly. And in terms of a newer card that's kind of similar, it is a little bit divergent from this, but overall it ties into the concept of a land that taps for mana and also has another ability that specifically cares about a particular type of creature, and that is Ally Encampment, and this is from Battle for Zendikar. So this one taps for either a colorless mana or a mana of any color to cast ally spells, and it wouldn't have made the list if it just had that. It's the final ability where you pay 1 mana and tap it, sacrifice Ally Encampment to return target ally you control to its owner's hand. That is a very weird kind of corner case land where, do you play this particular creature type? Okay, you get a land, and that land will bounce one of your guys back. And it's like, what? That's so weird. You know what I mean? Elephant Graveyard's weird. Animal Sanctuary's weird. Swarmyard's kind of weird. Ally Encampment, definitely weird. So these are a handful, right? There are other lands in the game that you may feel fall into these categories, but these are the ones that I felt most tightly represented what I wanted to talk about today. I think this genuinely is the most ridiculous land that they have ever made in Magic the Gathering. And as I said before, I love it. So thanks for coming by, my friends, and I'll see y'all real soon.